Corsair has been in the AIO liquid cooler game for a long time, and while they usually just take advantage of the great aesthetic pumps out there, it's a strategy that has worked well. The Corsair iCue H170i Elite CAPELLIX XT is a simple CPU cooler that pairs an RGB aesthetic pump with a massive 420mm radiator. On top of that, you get 3 AF140 RGB Elite fans, extensive software support, and low failure rates. This model builds upon the success of previous H170i AIOs. The direct predecessor would be the H170i Elite XT, without the newer CAPELLIX RGB LEDs. This newer version that we're looking at takes advantage of brighter and more efficient CAPELLIX LEDs, and also uses a newer high-performance thermal paste in the form of the XTM70. There's also an LCD version of this cooler that features an IPS LCD block, similar to the one seen on NZXT's Kraken line and the MSI Meg Core Liquid S360. Now let's talk about performance. One interesting thing about this cooler is that the fan curve is tied to the AIO coolant temperature, not the CPU temperature. In less intensive workloads, the cooler will still run as loud as it would with more intensive workloads. The fans will also follow suit. However, this means that the transition to lower or higher noise levels is smoother, as the AIO coolant temperature takes a bit longer to cool down than the CPU temperature. It's a risky idea, but one that pays off well. In common workloads where temperatures aren't that high, the pump won't be working too hard at all. Fans won't ramp up or ramp down suddenly either, and the overall result is a surprisingly quiet 420mm cooler. Of course, you'll still have trouble fitting a 420mm radiator into most cases, and that's a downside we'll touch on later. Despite the quiet operation, this thing offers phenomenal performance. It easily beats out a lot of the 360mm CPU coolers out there. It leaves a lot of headroom for overclocking, and it's nice to see that even with intensive workloads, it is capable of keeping the most demanding CPUs, like the i9-13900K, under 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. H170i Elite CAPELLIX XT is not only one of the best CPU coolers in terms of performance, but also in terms of looks as well. Its RGB pump looks great, and there are a few pump cover options in the box to match your build theme. The AF140 RGB Elite fans are also quite bright and are not as loud as other fans would be. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, there is one big issue. Most mid-tower ATX cases simply won't have space for a 420mm radiator. If you want to buy this CPU cooler, you'll need to first check if it can even fit in your case. That might be something that pushes you away, as there are 360mm CPU coolers out there like the Arctic Liquid Freezer 360 that offer almost the same level of performance. With that said, if you have room for it, this is a CPU cooler that will last you for a long time. It's more than capable of handling the most demanding CPUs, and I reckon it will do just fine with newer CPUs in the future as well. To sum up, what I like is the best-in-class performance, the quiet operation, the easy installation, and the reasonable pricing for a 420mm radiator. On the downside, limited case compatibility. Our ratings for design and aesthetics are 8.5 out of 10. Cooling performance, 9 out of 10. Noise, 9 out of 10. Installation, 9 out of 10. Value for money, 8 out of 10, for an overall rating of 9 out of 10.